Good morning, Sofa Squad. How is everybody doing? I hope y'all are well. We're going to start going. We'll start the live just a couple of minutes early here. We're hoping they start at 11. If you're watching on the replay or just joining, yeah, the jury is out or has been at Moselle this morning, kind of getting the vibe of the land, lay of the land, that type thing. And so I keep hearing everybody say 11. So that's kind of what we're all hoping for, right? And they're going to be closing arguments today, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. I don't know how long this will go for. I don't know when it will start. So we will just see. I hope everybody's doing well. So let's get all our situations set up in here. If you can hear what I'm saying, drop a number 1, pretty please. So that way I know this part is working, and then we'll start in on the, making sure the stream is working. Hey, Jason. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Knitting. Hey, Com. Hey, Jessica. Hey, CEO. They just left the crime scene. Okay. Do we know how long it will take them to get back? Hey, KCE, honor and respect. How's it going? How is Florida doing? Hey, Lynette. Hey, Barbara. Hey, Sarah. All right. Thank you. Okay, so now let's practice the stream. Hey, Vanessa. What's up? Okay. Let's practice the stream. Make sure that's working just lovely. Hey, Irene. How's it going? 25 minutes? Okay, good Lord almighty. So it might be more like noon before they get started, y'all. This could be like, go. Which is fine. We can kind of go in and out and listen to what they're saying over there. 27 minutes to the courthouse. They're probably going to be like, who needs the restroom? That kind of a thing. I can't wait to find out what we learn about that, y'all. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's make sure that the thing works. Let's get all situated. Please help. Please help. Please continue to help. Please keep help.
Okay. View of the Moselle family property where victims Maggie and Paul were found shot to death on June 7th of 2021. We expect to get to the closing arguments around 11 a.m. Eastern time, which is now. And we're going to be bringing those closing arguments to you as soon as they begin.
If you feel like one should be louder than the other,
boots on the ground reporting of Gigi McLeavy.
Keeping in mind that when the trial's going on,
the South Carolina courthouse. Gigi, what do you have for us in terms of
how's it going? Hey, Rain.
Of what's going on outside the court?
And let me just change this over here.
Well, we know Alec just got here a few moments.
No. I didn't mean to pause it.
Minutes ago, our camera guy said he has not seen the jury return yet. I kind of thought it might be a little later than 11 since it takes 30 minutes each way to go. But there is an air of anticipation here today. Long lines, the crowd. Gigi. Every time a member of the prosecution comes in, they cheer them in. And so, yeah, everybody's ready to see these closings get started. Wow. We're not sure if they're going to start as soon as the jury gets back because, they've been on the road since 9 o'clock this morning. We don't know if they're going to break for lunch right after we get in and then do closings after lunch. So we're all just ready to see what the day's going to bring.
Yeah, Gigi, that's really interesting what you just mentioned, that when members of the prosecution team are arriving at the courthouse,
saying I need to turn my volume down a little bit.
These trials, which are very public and that the public is following, like the Alec Murdaugh trial, sort of take on that spectator, almost like sporting air to them.
When they get on the court, their volume's
just describe that for our viewers. How is that happening? They're walking into court and suddenly the people waiting for the trial to start are just clapping. Can you just describe that so we get a sense of what you're seeing?
The prosecution team is kind of staggered in, not coming in, seeing, as individuals coming in more like 2s and 3s and members of SLED, obviously. So yeah, they're just getting, as soon as they're spotted, the crowd kind of starts clapping and cheering, and it quits as soon as they go in. But now the public's being let in. So it looks like maybe they've got word the jury is either here or close. So hopefully we get underway soon and see when these openings are going to start.
And do you have any idea of how the jury view went? If the jury is coming back, have you heard any inklings of how the actual viewing went?
I haven't heard anything yet. I did see the update from the reporter who went with the jury on that view. They left about 9:10, warned them to be on the lookout for snakes, by the way. It's low country. It's warm. It's humid out. They like this weather. They were going to spend 30 minutes at the kennel area at the very end, go up and see the exterior of the house, and then on their way back. So we haven't heard how it went, but definitely if they're not back, they're close.
Hey,
and
Tina.
Gigi, do you have a sense of what the high points or what the points that the public that you see out there are looking for? Of course, they're not the jurors, but I like to call them armchair jurors. And, the sense that you get from the public while you're outside the courtroom, are they expecting that this is going to be a prosecution win, a hung jury, or an acquittal?
Most people in line really are divided. I've talked to several, and they just feel like it's either going to be guilty or a hung jury. I think we all can agree it's probably not going to be a not guilty. But people have varying opinions where somebody said, in my heart, I think he did it, but I'm not sure the state had enough to convict to where
Emily,
the next person in line says, I was convinced 100% with the evidence, guilty as charged. So it's going to be interesting, though, the 12 people that matter most, what are they going to decide?
And Gigi, we hear that Jim Griffin is going to be delivering the summation, the closing argument for the defense. Was that expected, or do you think that people thought Dick Harpootlian would be the one to deliver that final summation to the jury?
Yeah, I don't think it was much of a surprise. I think he's a little more energetic, but, we know they wanted to split those closings. I apologize. A lot of emergencies in Walterboro, unfortunately. We hear it quite often. So we know they wanted to split the closings between the two of them. The judge and the state did not want that. So, yeah, I think Jim Griffin, either one of them would have been great. They're both, by default, trial watchers hate the defense for the most part, but they're very good at what they do. So I'm interested to see what both sides say to wrap this up, to plead their case and get the verdict they each want.
Okay, Gigi, thank you, as always, for the update. Outside the courthouse there in Walterboro, South Carolina. And we're going to let you go into that courthouse for the closings, and we're going to check in with you later in the day for your great reporting. For us at the network back here in New York City, I want to show some more testimony from
New York City. Okay, so Jason, you asked a question earlier. You said you where'd you go? Where did everything go? About what I think about this judge's performance compared to the Daryl Brooks judge's job, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, I've got some thoughts. Okay, first of all, I don't know if everybody in here watched the Daryl Brooks trial. We're still a little bit traumatized over that, y'all. That was an absolute insanity, right? And I just almost feel like this judge compared to her, and again, now I'll say this, both trials I didn't watch. I did not watch from start to finish, so I'm probably not I'm not really an expert. You know what I'm saying? But from what I just have seen in both of these, first of all, I like both the judges, right? And I feel like they're almost dealing with two different things, because this is almost like there's a level of professionalism in this courtroom that just wasn't there in Daryl's courtroom, coming from Daryl, you know what I'm saying? Because he represented himself and just did all the stuff that he was doing. And so this judge to me has been a lot quieter, I guess you could say, and a lot more just but he hasn't had a reason to get all up in it in the same way that the one in Daryl's did, because it was just this non-stop on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that makes sense or not. But I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I like both of these judges so far. But this judge to me has just been more calm and collected, if you will. And she was, I don't even know. I don't want to say she was not calm and collected, but it was almost like she was dealing with a whole other situation. You know what I'm saying? This trial to me is almost boring compared to the Daryl Brooks trial. I don't know if we'll see another trial like that in our lifetime, right? That was so you couldn't make it up. Now this one is that way, but in a different way, right? In my opinion, I feel like this one is that way in just almost like the level of corruption, the level of scandal, the level of entitlement and greed and all this stuff coming from this family, where I'm just oh my gosh, kind of a thing, right? That's what kind of has surprised me and not surprised me, that I see different in this trial. Whereas Daryl's was more just over the top. Like, first of all, the crime was like so insane, right? I mean, he mowed down a parade and then was up there insulting, survivors, and it was insane. So, and if you haven't watched that trial and you're like wanting something to watch after this, y'all, I mean, you have to go watch it, right? Because it was like, whoa, mama chama. And Kathy just creeped up. I was one of the age of majority. And you have more about. So, Kathy, excellent question. I have more females. It depends on what it is, right? Overall, it's typically more females, and they're usually. So I'm 45 years old, and I forget what the bracket on YouTube says, but it's like the age bracket that you're describing right there, and I feel like it's like my age to mid 60s or whatever. Um, that age bracket is the most popular age that watches me. What I notice is that like super young people, and what I mean by that is, now granted, mind you, at this point, super young people is like age 30 to me, right? But really what I mean is like early 20s, that kind of thing. That's like they don't watch me as much, but I'm probably not covering cases that they're watching, right? So I find that it's a lot of people like my age and up that's the most popular, and it's mostly women. Yeah, see, I mean, everybody, 37, 26. Okay, so we got youngins in here now. 29, 69, 39, 46, 55. A real hair color. I hear you, Lori. 70, 55, 49. Yeah, this is interesting. Happy birthday, Leah. I didn't see that, but I just saw somebody saying happy birthday to you. 40, 73, 46, 41, 41, 50. Almost 50. Yeah, so see, y'all can see. I mean, isn't that interesting? We're all kind of like in there's like this bracket. And that's like that tends to be the most. And I don't know if that, I mean, I think that's interesting. I mean, I would like to know the psychology of that, right? I don't know if it's because people get what I'm talking about, or I don't know. I just find it interesting though. And yeah, so Ira Peru Rosa, I hope I'm saying your name right, that middle-aged women enjoy true crime the most. It very well could be true, right? 100%. 33, I grew up on horror movies, and I'm a horror movie fanatic, but I have not watched them in a long time. And so here's the thing also with that. Okay, when I was young, and I'm talking like just, just a little love seat walking around the house, okay? Um, I was like very big into like Friday. That back then it was like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, like the originals, right? All that kind of stuff. And so that's what I was really into. Now, I will go and watch those things all day long. Pardon me. I'm a Sagittarius as well. Yeah, drop your sign if you want to. I'm a Sagittarius. Um, I was super into that and wanted to go into like special effects makeup artists. Like I started like learning how to like make all this kind of scars and stuff like that, right? Now that I'm older, now first of all, you will always see me go to the theater to see Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason, Chainsaw Massacre, any of that stuff, I'm gonna get it for nostalgia's sake, right? But I'm more into like a different kind of horror film. I'm not like wanting to go see people sawed up and crazy stuff like that anymore. I mean, if it's done well, but more psychological horror at this point in my life, because the thing is, I've gotten older, there's like other things that scare me in a different way, right? Like, it's just weird, but I'm a big fan of horror, but just in probably a different way than I was when I was a young kid, right? So, um, and yeah, there hasn't been any good movies a lot. Although, if you have watched uh, X, Pearl, and now coming up, Madam X or Maxine, amazing, amazing trilogy. I haven't seen the last one yet. So Sagittarius. One thing I noticed too is that I've run into a lot of Sagittarius. It's so funny. Oh, Elm Street, Leah, that would be so cool to live on Elm Street. Yeah, now Emily, Fatal Attraction, and I saw that when and I can't believe that I was allowed to even watch that because I mean, there's some, let's be honest, some real, sexual scenes up in there. Um, but that was I mean, that whole rabbit thing still is just like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I need to get back. I don't think I've done anything on the horror channel for like a year, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Um, pardon me, because it got to be where I wasn't sure what to do with the channel, because at first I was like, I'm going to use it just to talk about all things horror. And then it was more like, okay, Paul, I get busy with these channels, right? And then I have to do that, and then I kind of fall off. And so I got to figure out what to do, because part of me was like, maybe I shouldn't just do horror films. Maybe I should do more like, what did I watch this week? That kind of a thing, because I end up watching so much true crime. I don't have time to do that at the end of the day. So, anyways, but I need to get back to it because I love doing that. But I also don't have a setup with all my horror stuff anymore. I know, right, Lisa? And I kind of feel that way too. Lisa says I can't watch scary movies because reality is horrifying enough. I mean, I'm right there with you, girl. I mean, Lord. Um, let's see. Yeah, so earlier, if you're just joining, welcome. We were just talking about demographics earlier. Somebody had asked, like, what, kind of like, do mostly women watch you and stuff like that or whatever? And so we were dropping ages and signs and stuff like that. And it was pretty interesting. Now, also for those curious, what is it? CrimeCon, September this year. I don't think I'm going to have a booth there because I've never heard back from them. Like you have to, what is it? Like you apply to do it kind of a thing. And I don't know if I'm just like, they haven't gotten back to people yet, or if they've already reached out to the people that they want to, but they kind of pick who they want to. So probably at this point, if they were to be like, oh, hey, and it's just, I'm being impatient, I probably wouldn't and just go as an attendee like I did last year in Vegas, because I was still able to meet up with people and talk and all that kind of stuff. Because to me, I was like, look, I need to get a head start on like planning and prepping for that, right? Because, I don't know, I just would want to do it up. And I don't think that I would have time to really do it the way I would want to do it at this point in time, if that makes sense, right? Because I've never done that before. So, but regardless, whether I have a booth or I'm just going, I'm going to be there if y'all are going to be there. So there. I don't even know. You know what? Let's go look real quick and just see who's going to be there, y'all. Since we have this time, September CrimeCon 2023, Orlando. I don't even think that they name who's going to be there yet. If they do, oh my goodness, excuse me. You know what? Let's do this. Let's see. Okay, so let's do it. Yeah, I'm going to share the screen with y'all because this will be interesting to look at. Please hold. And now I'm going to go over to this. I'm going to go over to share screen. I'm going to say yes. And then I'm going to say CrimeCon Vegas. And then I'm going to say share. Oh my goodness. Okay. Can y'all see me over here? Yes. Okay. So this is the one that I went to last year. Okay. And over here, this is Henry Lee, the blood splatter guy. Funny guy up there to just, I mean, you would think that he'd be kind of like maybe a fuddy dud. He is not. He has an amazing personality, and he actually spent more time talking about other cases than just the Michael Peterson thing, and some fascinating cases, right? He was one of the highlights, and it made me want to go buy his book, but the line was too long, so I didn't, and then I mentally meant to, and I never ended up doing it. Now, if you see over here to the right, we have John Bonet's father. He was the very last person, and I feel like he was a VIP event or something like that, which I did not get VIP tickets. My personal opinion, it depends on the vibe you're looking for, but you do not need the VIP tickets, right? I just didn't feel that one needed that, unless you're wanting to do like super extra stuff and whatnot, but you can completely get by with just the normal tickets. But I mean, I'm talking a ton of people went to that, and I didn't even know that's what was going on. I was just like, why is this huge like amount of people here all of a sudden? And it was him. Okay. The lady here in the blue, the purple, however you want to interpret that color, she hosts so many true crime shows. Y'all, she was fascinating to listen to, her story and her career. And a lot of the people get up there and that's what they talk about is how they arrived at where they are now, right? So they're talking about their careers and what it was like coming up through the ranks and all that kind of stuff. It was fascinating. And let's see who else. I didn't see these. I didn't see them talk. Who is this? I didn't see them talk. Oh, I can't think of his name, but you recognize him with the white hair over here in the middle. I did not see that. I'm just going based on the people that I was able to go to and hear. A lot of your favorite podcast. So for example, True Crime Garage was there. Now, I did not go up and meet them, but they were there. They had a booth. Now, this is the kind of place where I'm talking about that I would have wanted to get a booth at. In this place here, I met Stephanie Harlow. I met Scott Reich. Amazing people. Amazing, amazing, amazing. They are just like they are. They are super approachable, super cool. Nancy Grace spoke, and I'm not going to lie, I know a lot of people feel a certain way about her. She was very tame. It was almost like she was out of character, meaning like the person that we see, right? And she was incredibly interesting to listen to. She was incredibly interesting. And where else are we? Okay, so there's that. And then these are just like random pictures from the whole event that are scrolling around the bottom. They had like little photo ops like you see here. And see, here's a picture coming across the bottom of like what the little booths and stuff looked like. And again, people just going around doing their thing, just doing their thing. Okay, let's see, stop screen. So yeah, so I mean, it was cool. So if you get a chance to go for it, right? I think you'll have a blast. I certainly did. And then here's the other thing too, like literally, this is the biggest thing for me that I was like, oh my gosh, especially going as a creator, right? But on both ways, however you want to look at it. It didn't matter where you went, like whether it was getting on the elevator, pardon me, going to your room, whatever, because you'll have stuff you're carrying around, like people know that you're there with that, right? And you literally, the conversations that you will strike up in line waiting to buy a coffee or whatever, you are amongst your people, okay? So it's like, you can literally just strike up and be like, what do you think of this case? And they'll start reeling off, you know what I mean? Like their thing or whatever. So that part right there was priceless. Now, I'll say this. We went to Vegas, so you had that whole backdrop, right? So for me, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I don't even know how many days it went on, but probably by the last day of it, it was like, okay, we're gonna go kind of like walk around. We kind of done everything we wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? But it's 100% worth it. And then if you live driving distance and don't have to get the hotel and do all that, and you can just show up, even better for you, right? So it is what it is. So just it's if you get to go, but if not, I'll be. And what I did there when I was there is I went live a few times, and it's kind of like, this is what we did today. So I'll be doing the same thing. I don't know if I'll walk around and go live because that seemed like kind of extra, right? But I mean, we'll see. I don't think I want to do that. But like, I would go to my room at night and go live and then talk about what was going on that day and that type thing. And then you'll see a lot of also just the people who are involved in the cases themselves there to spread the word about their loved one, that type thing, right? So it's definitely worth it. I have to get a little blankie. Please hold. Okay. Sorry. It's actually really well. Let's see what the temperature is here. the temperature here is, well, 56. So it's not like warm here, but it's, whatever. And then I have a little fan going over here. And let's see this. Okay, cool. Okay. So again, for those that are just joining, hello, thank you for joining. We are basically just waiting. Oh, and wait, let me go back to sharing the screen so that we can catch it. We're waiting for them to come back from the property. Oh wait, this is the wrong screen. Hold on. No, we don't want this one. We want to share this one. Please hold. Share screen. Watch live. Share. Okay, there we go. And let me just come back over here to make sure there. Okay. There's that, and then let me just pull this up. Okay, so while we're waiting, somebody asked a question in the hold on, let me get back over here. Hold on, we're locking up, y'all. We're locking up. Hold on, y'all. We're locking up in here. Wait, is this it? Okay. Let me grab this real quick. Hold on. Please hold. I mean, I almost did it. I almost fell down. Okay, so someone in the thing asked about the Pringles can. Now, Emily sent this to me. This is actually a water thing, but I don't dare use it because it's too special to me. But it's a Pringles can that somebody has made into a sippy cup. And so we are going to quickly go over the original article as to where this came from, okay? Because it is too good. And we'll come back to this because there are going to be a few more minutes, right? So let's go on over to here. Please hold. Okay, so let me get over to the screen share. Woman drinking wine from Pringles can. Okay, let me make sure y'all can see it over here. Yes, okay. So here we go. Okay. So this is old. Woman drinking wine from Pringles can banned from Walmart. Okay. So police in northern Texas say a woman has been banned from a local Walmart after she spent several hours driving an electric shopping cart around the store's parking lot while drinking wine from a Pringles can. Okay, so let me just read that again without laughing. It's hard not to, though. Police in northern Texas say a woman has been banned from a local Walmart after she spent several hours driving an electric shopping cart around the store's parking lot while drinking wine from a Pringles can. I have so many questions just about the first sentence, right? I mean, I'm just like, that is horrible. I don't want to see that picture of that poor little baby elephant. Oh my God. Okay, police tell the Times Record News that officers responded to a suspicious person call at about 9 a.m. Friday at Walmart in Wichita Falls, about 125 miles northwest of Dallas, near the Oklahoma border. Wichita Falls police spokesperson Jeff Hughes said the woman had reportedly been riding the electric cart around the parking lot for about 3 hours. This is like the only time that these damn carts would go for that long, right? I'm just like, they don't ever work like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, they must have just charged that damn battery, right? Okay. So Hughes said Oh, okay. Hughes said police eventually found the woman in a nearby restaurant and told her not to return to the store. Police say the woman wasn't arrested and her name was not released. Okay, and that's it there. So, but I mean, I guess my question were they like, yeah, just let her keep going till the batteries run out. We'll catch her down the line. You know what I'm saying? Just like, I mean, could you not just walk up to her and be like, what's up? You know, like, ma'am, we're not sure what you're going through this morning. You know, we'll pray for you, but we don't want you back in the Walmart again. Okay. I'm just like, how did we arrive at that? But I mean, y'all, when I scream and holler every time over that one, y'all, absolutely. So after that, I mean, that went viral, y'all. And so, I mean, people were just like, Kelsey says she worked up an appetite. She did. She put in the work that morning, girl. She put it in. She was on the clock that morning. Okay. She earned that Applebee's. She scooted right on over to damn Applebee's and got some apps and was done. Okay. She was like, I am going to be right here. Fill this little cup up again. Okay, let's get back over and share the screen. Let's get back on over to the court. Let's get serious again. Well, this is a very ominous thing. Justice coming soon. They're just waiting. They're just waiting. Yeah, man, we'll pray for you. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, y'all, that one got me. I know. I was thinking I just like, we know it was an Applebee's. Okay, we know it was Applebee's. We know, right? Oh, thank you, Chrissy, for the super chat, and I'm glad that you were able to hang out with us here and that we were able to bring you a smile and whatnot. So that's sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being here. Oh, Lord. Now, let me tell you all this also. We're just kind of, if you're just joining, you know what? Let me put a little banner up thing. Please hold. I'm going to put a little banner going across the thing for people that are just showing up in the thing. Hold on, banners. Wait, banners. And then create banner. Currently waiting on jury to return. Any minute now. Scroll across the bottom, add banner. Show. Okay. So if you're just joining, really the jury should be back any minute now. They left a little bit ago. It takes about 30 minutes. So they should be getting back to the courthouse, yada, yada, yada. There's that. Okay. So, if you have Starbucks, you know how Starbucks, like they have an app and you can order it. Caribou does it too and whatnot. Okay. So this morning I went walking and then I was like, I'm going to go get my cappuccino because, it's court. It's court. We need to, get our energy up. And, oh, thank you, Marsha. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I put my order in and then I got there and it wasn't sitting on the little thing. And I was like, what's going on? And so I looked and I was like, I ordered it at the wrong location. And which I've done before, but they're usually really cool. And I was like, hey, I ordered at the wrong location. Could I, just get this here? And they're usually like, yeah, whatever. And they're like, well, you could, but our espresso machine is broken. And I was like, ah. And she was like, would you like regular coffee instead? And I was like, sure. And the only thing they had made was the dark roast, which is what this is, the Pike, I think it's called. So I got that. Let me tell you what, I've maybe drank this much out of this. This is a venti. Their Starbucks normal coffee is so intense. Like right now, I'm like, like even above, like, because I've gotten a cappuccino. I can drink a cappuccino, a mocha on top of that, and fine. But their regular coffee is so intense for me. I'm like, oh, I can't. Oh my gosh. So I'm just letting y'all know if I fall over, it's because of this. So these dudes just move that stuff. I know. I hope I'm saying your name right. I keep saying it in many different ways, and then I just am picking parts of it to say. So if you want to drop it, how to pronounce your name so that I'm not like messing it up. But 100% I agree with you. I want to do that too. Now I do enjoy going places to get a drink, like whatever there's some process there, but it's so expensive. And it's so expensive, right? I mean, I'm just like, my gosh. So I'm thinking like, yeah, get an actual espresso machine for home. And then, it's just better that way, right? It saves money in the long run, all that type of stuff. But it also can't be complicated, right? Because I remember back in the day when I used to work at a restaurant and they had an espresso machine where you filled the thing up and you went like this. Y'all, I couldn't make people want a cappuccino. We had to froth the milk. Could not do it. Never could figure out how to do that. All I would do was steam the milk and make it hot milk, right? That's all I knew how to do. And nowadays, you just push a button and it makes it for you. Okay, Tammy Sue says she bought one. Thank you, Barbara. Pie Braville. Okay. See, that's not right. Like $300 to $500 machine. See, that's what I'm thinking too. For regular coffee, I love a French press. It is so clean tasting, if that makes sense. And that's the only way I know how to describe it. It's just such a clean tasting cup of coffee. I have a Keurig. It's not the name brand Keurig, but it's like one of those, or it might be. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's old. And I'll say this: whatever it is, it's paid for itself, right? And so I have the little pods and stuff like that, which is easy on work days. But I just don't know with like espresso machines at this point, like, you know, where are we at with that? But you know what? Now y'all got me thinking. Because now, and here's my thing too. These drinks aren't the healthiest thing, right? So it's also, I don't know. Hold on. Let's see. Espresso machine. Just look this up. Let's see what the market. Well, here's the Breville, Williams Sonoma. Oh man, Williams Sonoma. I love it. I love walking along Williams Sonoma, even though I know I'm like, I would never use half the stuff, right? But just to have the things on the shelf, or the counter is enough, right? But I know I'm like, I would never appreciate this. What are the cool, like colorful, really thick cast iron pots that are really expensive that I'm just like, I love how those look, but I don't cook enough food like that, right? On the regular to make it count, but just the vibe of Williams Sonoma, I'm like, oh, I want people to think that I'm all these things, sweetie darling. Oh, thank you, Allison. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're hanging out with us today. Oh yeah, hold on. And Chrissy, I'm having surgery next Thursday. Oh my God, thank you again, Chrissy, and that is amazing. That is so awesome. Congratulations. And good luck with that. I hope. Do you know what kind of have they quoted you like a this is what kind of recovery time you're looking at or anything like that? Le Creuset or however you say that word. That's it. Yes, that stuff. Yeah, see, I've gotten some the Creuset stuff like for presents and stuff like that, like a little frying pan or whatever you want to call it. I just don't use them that much. Okay, let's get back over this damn $1,200 for a espresso machine. Now that's getting all up in it, right? But now this Breville thing that somebody, whoever it was, who said they got the Breville? Now this is fancy looking. Hold on. Listen to me. Listen. It sounds like I just left the woods for the first time. This is fancy. And everybody's like, what is it? What is it? It's just a regular coffee pot. Y'all like, that ain't no espresso machine. That's just a regular damn coffee pot. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you, Jessica. Thanks for hanging out and enjoying it with us. Okay, I'm going to share the screen over here so that y'all know I'm not talking about just some old regular coffee pot talking about this is fancy stuff up in here. Okay, Tammy. Okay, Tammy, let me know if this is the one you got. Okay, hold on. Okay, wait, hold on. Chrissy says I have to have a second part of the surgery in about 4 months. After that, it's about a month. Okay, okay. Well, keep us updated here at the squad, and before you go and on your recovery for it. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen real quick. So stop there, present, share. William Sonoma. Okay, so y'all look at this. If you're just joining, no, we are not. We are going to the trial, but we're doing some side shopping real quick. I know we are not buying this. We're just looking at it so we can get the vibe and ask questions about it. Okay, so here's my question. How difficult is it to make this? Because like what they're making right there, to me, when I look at that, I'm like, oh, I'd have to take a class. I would have to take a class. And then what if something goes? So Tammy, I guess these are questions for you. Number one, is this the one you have? Number two, is it tricky? Number three, I guess you fill that thing up so it puts it in there itself. Like if you wanted to make a mocha, how would you make a mocha? I mean, look at that. It does look really yummy. See that thing right there on the side, the frother, that thing right there? That's the thing that when I worked at that restaurant 20 years ago, y'all could not do it, and that's what makes me nervous. What if I got it for home and I couldn't use it? Like, it's too fancy. You know what I'm saying? Grind, steams, everything's super easy. Meredith says she has the same one as we still get. See, okay, this is one of it. We need both ends of the spectrum here on this. Tammy's saying, hey, all day long I can cook out mochas. Meredith is like, it's a dust collector. I'm afraid it would be a dust collector for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm afraid that I would go down that path too of like, and then, so for me, I would be like, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I probably get a Starbucks every other day because I like either right now I'm in a cappuccino mode because like especially if I go to work, whatever, I'm like, okay, here we go. This can get me going. I don't know if I can, anyone can. Okay. Okay, let's go back over to the trial. Or you know what I'm saying? The parking lot, I guess. Oh wait, here we go. Oh, he's just back on there, hemming and hawing. Okay. Hold on, let's get back over here. Dutch Brothers. Hold on. I just got a Dutch Brothers. You hear, Jenny? We have what is it called? Restaurant Depot. That's where we go. Yeah, I drink coffee every day, and I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I mean, I'll tell y'all this. So recently when I go to work, I get 2 coffees. I get a tall mocha. And see, that's the thing. Like, so a huge money saver for me would be the mochas and being able to make them the way I want to make them so they're not super crazy full of chocolate. And then I get a cappuccino. And yes, I was thinking knitting. I was like, I need to hit Stephanie Harlow up and be like, girl, how do you work this damn thing? She makes the most beautiful cups of coffee with that thing, right? I think is Tammy Lee, Agent Tammy Lee. Is that the one I was talking about earlier, Jessica? The woman with the purple shirt and the black hair I showed a picture of? Oh wait, are you talking about is Tammy Lee? Who is Tammy Lee? Is that Tammy Lee from the Chris Watts case? I don't know where you get that Pringles bottle. Where did you find that, Emily? Oh, that's true, Tammy. Yeah, because I'm thinking now it's like you make that and you go sit outside, have a nice little, cappuccino. Etsy. Okay. Yes, Watts. Okay, Tammy, okay, I know you're talking about now. That would be a very interesting person to hear speak. I don't know if she would, though. It was so traumatizing for her. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could be wrong. Yeah, because this coffee has me a zooming. Oh, what? So Jenny or Rain, one of my friend, pardon me, one of my friends came to visit, and he got it might be the 911 coffee. It was some kind of like almost looked like lethal, like, oh my god, this is like really crazy intense or whatever. And I was like, I can't do that because I haven't even drank half of this, and I can't drink anymore. That's how much caffeine is in it. But isn't that interesting that I can drink a venti mocha or a venti cappuccino from Starbucks, and I can pound those all day, but a cup of coffee, this is like, whoa, way too much. Well, I've heard good things about the pistachio lattes. And Meredith, I'm the same way. Usually what I end up doing, and I was doing this for the last couple of years, anything I was getting decaf, unless it was the cup of coffee I made at home in the morning. But then after that, it was decaf cappuccino, just because I like the taste of it, decaf mochas, because it still has caffeine in it, right? But this is all they had ready to go because their machine was broken at Starbucks today. Okay, I've got to put this back on. And I could just close the fan off or turn it off or whatever you say. And it's like, Paul, why don't you do that? Well, then it's so quiet. And then I'm like completely aware of the stagnant air. Um, yeah, the long sleeve thing is a good idea. Yeah, see, and that's one thing I do with the coffee, with the decaf coffee, is I have it around to have at in the evening times. If I want like a late night, because I just like the taste of coffee. When I was younger, I would drink all day long, y'all. Now what I do, especially, it's mostly if I work, but recently with this trial, I've been getting up and going and getting coffee, like, a specialty drink and coming back. And it gets me out of the house real quick, that type thing. But on the way to work, I'll stop. And if it's a long day, I'll get 2 cups of coffee, like a mocha and a cappuccino. And I'll have 1 cup of homemade coffee on the way to work because it's like a 40-minute drive. So, and then after that, I have a Coke Zero and, water in between, mixed in there, of course. And that is like, okay, I'm awake now. I'm ready to go. But yeah, because the too high octane coffee, yeah, it gets me going. Oh my gosh, yo, hold on. I gotta show y'all something. I forgot about this. I actually was doing a video thing to do, but then it didn't come through well. So I don't have the box in front of me, but it's over there. I got my Dolly Parton Funko Pop yesterday. Okay. Let me see here. So here she is. This is the Dolly Parton Funko Pop. This is from Funko Pop. It's the Funko Pop exclusive one. I felt like her outfit was very Elvis-y. And she has her little glitter guitar. And it has a little stand on the feet. She's up here hanging out with the Golden Girls. Okay. And here's the thing too with Starbucks, and I'm just gonna say this. If they're okay, so and I don't it depends on where you live in the country and whatnot. Um, but what is it called? Was Caribou Coffee used to be way more prevalent around here, and now they're not really around that much, at least in this area. But where I work, and which is also very close to where Matt and I used to live, there's basically like the same distance, Caribou Coffee or Starbucks. Starbucks is just easier if I'm going just to work, like not living there, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, it's just easier. But I like the vibe of Caribou better. And I like their drinks better. Starbucks is now for me more like the McDonald's of coffee shops, right? Now, does that mean that I don't, like no, I mean, you see me have a Starbucks cup, right? Um, but they've become like the McDonald's of coffee shops. And so Caribou, you go in and they're still nice to you. You know, it's like their drinks taste good and it's just a cozy vibe. Where Starbucks, and I mean, again, this is at least here. There's just it's very not welcoming, right? It's not very, I don't know how to describe it. It's not very welcoming at all. Scandrel, you know what? You might be. But hey, it's all good. It's all good. No, wait, we might be having some action over here. What's this? And then yeah, there's local coffee shops too. And I need to find one. I think there's gonna be excuse me. I'm sorry, y'all. There's gonna be there's other local coffee shops, which if I want to hang out, which I haven't done this in a very long time, I'll usually go to a local coffee shop, because that's pretty much like where I'm at now is pretty much all they have are local type coffee shops. So there's that. Oh, Jessica, I went to Dollywood, not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before was the first time I ever went. Now, here's the thing also is it was literally the last day of the season, and it was, like, after New Year's, um, and so I oh my gosh. So, a lot of the stuff was closed, and a big thing of me going to Dollywood oh, thank you, Jenny, I appreciate it. A big thing of me going to Dollywood is I wanted to get on her bus, like, I wanted to do that kinda stuff, all that stuff was closed up. Now, also, the other thing about that was pardon me, um it was I don't say it wasn't rainy, but it was like, I mean, it was cold, right? Um, it was the very end of our trip, and I even wanna say that my cousin and her family were leaving from Dollywood to head back to Florida. Yeah, and we were headed back to the yes, that's right. So it was just the vibe was off with it. It was like we were all tired, we that kinda thing. This is not to say I did not have fun. I had a blast, but I wanna go during, like, the spring or the fall or something like that, right? Not just when I went because, like I said, it was the last day of the season and half the stuff was closed. But, we had some fun on the rides there, and too, because it's Dolly Parton, and here's my thing with Dolly Parton, I I just love her as an entertainer, as a singer, as an actor, all that kind of stuff, right? Um, she's just still an entertainer. She doesn't interject stuff into, you know, I don't know, just I don't know. She's just, she gets up there and she entertains, and that's what she does, and she doesn't get messy. You know what I'm saying? Like we see so much of these days. Um, So I just love her for that. Basically good, clean family fun, and people from all walks of life love her, right? It's like it's so interesting her fan base because they're anybody and everybody and they can all find this common ground that they absolutely love Dolly Parton, right? And I love that about her. Yeah, right. It's like they do their thing. They get up there. They're not trying to like prove some personal point about this, that, the other. And she's just a very welcoming human being. Linda, spill the tea. What was it like meeting her? Oh, that's so cute. Her imagination library is so amazing. And I tell you what, I could listen to Dolly just tell stories because I think Dolly is a storyteller, right? I mean, that's what she does with her music, with all that type stuff. And I love her live albums. Like her album Live and Well is really good if you listen to the whole thing because in between she tells stories and whatnot. And I just love that about her. Yeah, 9 to 5 was amazing. That's what I hear too. Okay, if you're on TikTok, I don't so let me know if you went down this. So recently TikTok discovered that Dolly Parton wears those things on her hand that cover her hands. And so I've heard many different reasons, but number one for arthritis, number two for to cover tattoos, number three aging reasons, that kind of a thing. But it was like this whole thing where people were obsessed with this, trying to basically say it was almost like a cosmetic thing, and I'm like, I don't think she hides that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think she wears like, designery looking things a lot of times in her hands. She's covering her hands up, right? And so, I was like, I don't think that she's, trying to hide that fact, right? But TikTok discovered it, and it was this whole thing, right? So, it was crazy. Thank you, Grace. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out again today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, that's my thing too. I'm like, she can do whatever she wants, and like the tattoo thing. I mean, and I've heard that she has surgery scars that she covered up with tattoos. That she has some butterfly tattoos, but she covers them up. And so okay, cool. Jessica, I work in continuing education. Batch of lavender syrup a week. Yeah, it was funny when TikTok discovered the whole hand thing, because I was just like, again, I don't think she's ever tried to hide that at all. It's just what she does. So bless her heart. But yeah, she's very inspiring to so many different people, and I love that about her. And I love that, if it's Dolly Parton, that, anyone of any age, any color, any sex, gender, whatever, a boy, girl, anyone under the sun can go and be entertained by this woman, right? I mean, she's just, she's very open-hearted, and I love that. And I think that the world needs more of that. Hey, Stormy, we're literally hanging out waiting for the jury. We have been shopping for espresso machines. We were just talking about Dolly Parton. Let's see what else. Have drank a few sips of a Starbucks coffee that has way too much caffeine in it, and that's how we made our way to the espresso talk. And so now we're just hanging out waiting. Oh, Emmylou Harris is so wonderful. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love her. TikTok is rabbit hole. Just stay away, for real. It's not. It's no. I can see how it's taken over social media, and it does make me afraid for how addictive it is and how it shortens your attention span even more. I can appreciate some things about it too, because I've learned so much stuff from TikTok, y'all, from seeing how other people live, and like just their, hey, this is what I'm doing here today, and that kind of a thing. That part's interesting, right? But then, like everything, it has the downside to it, right? Yeah, I love Emmylou. Who else I was listening to the other day? Bonnie Raitt. Hadn't listened to her, just, straight up, I can't make you love me. I mean, oh my God, right? Yeah, it's a total time suck. I mean, I literally was like sitting there for a while. I had to have a talk with myself, because I was like literally at one point where I was like, Paul, you could be working on YouTube, you could be walking, you could be doing a lot of stuff, right? And so I had to have a coming to Jesus with myself over it. Because that's the whole thing. You can literally go down this rabbit hole on it. Y'all want to know the first album I ever bought? And now, okay, if you're in my age range and up, or somewhere around it and up, you're going to you'll recognize the things I'm going to talk about. And yes, love Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn. Okay, Prince, Purple Rain, number one, and I'm talking about on what do you call it? Not the 8-track, but the small record, not the big record, small one. And so at Christmas time when we met up, we got gift certificates to Record Bar, and they had a record bar on Franklin Street. Now this was like, to me, that was where you got your music back then. If there was a concert ticket, that's what you did. You went and waited in line at Record Bar, and that's where you did that. And so I got my cousins took me up there, and I picked out Purple Rain on record and used my little gift certificate. And yeah, that was my very first album ever. Yeah, I think 45 is what it's got. Yeah. BB King, yeah, another amazing one. FYE was always a good. Do they even still? Is it still open? I bet that was an amazing concert. Happy. Oh my gosh. Groove Theory. Tell me, Groove Theory. Who is that? Yeah, I remember the tapes and stuff like that. I used to get. Oh my gosh. And I mean, still, it blows my mind now that pardon me. Okay, so like an album cover or a CD cover or the cassette, the fold thing, like to me that was a major part of getting music, right? Like you wanted to touch that, you wanted to decipher the lyrics because you didn't have the internet back then, right? And so you would sit there and like read all over that and whatnot. And the fact there's still some bands, I'll say this, Indigo Girls, I will still get one of their hard copy CDs so I can have it in my hand and touch it. And knitting artisan. Okay, so Def Leppard. So I don't know if y'all have a state fair near you, but we have state fairs here, like the big state fair here in Raleigh. And Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, that whole genre of music always is like a mental go back to that time of like riding the pirate ship and doing all that kind of stuff because that's the kind of music they would play back then on those. And it was just such good energy. And I'm sorry, Mariah Carey, Honey, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. If she released that today, I think it would still go to number one, right? I mean, her stuff. Now, I haven't really listened to Mariah Carey's like most recent stuff or whatever, but all her earlier things, oh my God, y'all, is this it? Okay, yeah, I a total Mariah Carey fan. Love her music, love her songwriting. Oh, The Supremes, that's a good one. I should work in a call center, right, for the police hold thing. It would only be appropriate. Okay, let me go put the volume on to see what's going on over here. Hold on. What would y'all do if he stood up right now and said, "I did it. I did it. I can't take it anymore." I would be like, "Oh my gosh. Living on a prayer." Fleetwood Mac, I listen to them all day long. I was very tempted to get their concert tickets because they're coming here. I love, oh my gosh, the Fleetwood Mac is like a vibe, right? It like takes me back to a very specific memory in my childhood and like a time and a place. Hey Lolo, how's it going? Yesterday I was talking when he was up there when old Poot was up there giving the medical examiner a hard time, and I was like, she needs to start tickling him. Can you imagine old Poot wriggling around there, squealing like a little schoolgirl? Like, say he's like super ticklish when he was like really PO'd, and like if somebody like started tickling him up there, and he started like just wiggling all over the place, talking about stop, stop. Oh yeah, Tiny Dancer, you're throwing some good ones out there. That is my vibe. 80s music is literally what I could like some late 70s, and it's kind of all blends together, whatever. That's I mean, what that's major nostalgia for me. Major nostalgia. Yeah, right, Scandal. It's that for me, Fleetwood Mac and different songs do. Dreams, um, I want to be with you everywhere. Um, Landslide, obviously, that's just a tearjerker, my God. Um, it's starting, but the volume's on, so all of a sudden it's probably going to scare the you know what out of me. Yeah, if the bailiff would come over and tickle people when they got too out of control, I mean, can you imagine? That is so cool, common sense. Oh my gosh. Now, also, I was able to see Loretta Lynn in concert. It was probably 20 years ago, and she was at the State Fair. This is back when they would have free concerts. I mean, they might do it where y'all are at. I don't know. But they started charging like $5 or something like that here. But Loretta Lynn came and played at the State Fair here, and we got in line. And it's not a big. If you've been to the one in Raleigh, the Dorton Arena, or whatever it's called, and her tour bus was out there, and she got up there and wearing her big old dress. She was sitting there. I got to look over the little thing. She waved up at us, and when she got on stage, she walked around a little bit. She's like, "I gotta take these shoes off," and she got up there and sung her hits. And I thank God I got to see her. Absolutely love Loretta Lynn. Just country as country can be, and I love every bit of it. Poots, something's going on. Oh, Buster's like, let me get my vape out. I mean, he might be. Where's Nancy? Nancy Grace is usually sitting real close to Buster, which for me would make me feel weird, right? A major bucket list for me would be to see Dolly Parton, but I don't think she's going to do any live concerts anymore. I get it, right? I would do anything to see Dolly Parton. I mean, I would travel, like that kind of thing, right? Also, The Cure. If they come to the States on this last album, I will do whatever I have to do because bless Robert's heart. I mean, come on, right? I mean, at a certain point, you wouldn't want to tour anymore, right? Pardon me. Buster's like, what's going on? Where's Diddy? Love John Denver, Jim Grace, James Taylor. So for everybody joining, we're just waiting on the jury to come back. Yeah, their concert. I've never been to one of their concerts, but watching them on YouTube and stuff, I mean, it's an experience. To see them opening up with Close Down. What is it? Close or Close Down? The one, It's So Cold. You know what song I'm talking about? It opened up on the song opener for Disintegration. That's my favorite album by them. That whole album just literally, oh my gosh. You want to talk about memory lane. Okay, so also, y'all, I finished watching the documentary on this case on Netflix, and so there's 3 parts to it. I am gonna do a video on it. I cut up all the parts that I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying, Sam? And so I have to edit it and whatnot, and then record it, obviously. So I might work on that later today. It just depends on how long this takes. So what was I gonna say? I forgot what I was doing. I was doing 3 things at once over here. I was getting the phone, I was doing this, and then I had lost my train of thought. Oh, the documentary, sorry. Okay, so part 3 goes into the other deaths, the housekeeper, Stephen Smith. Not as much as it does REM is another one. Oh my God. I wish I could have seen them. To see them do Country Feedback Live would literally be life goals for me. Oh my God, that song, y'all. Oh my God, I love that song. I love REM. Pardon me. I listen to REM probably every day, like when I'm walking and stuff. Alex is up there saying, now listen. Okay, so the documentary, I mean, it just speaks for itself. I mean, I just feel like what we're witnessing, and again, it's all alleged because, this is, word of mouth, but I mean, I tend to trust the people I don't the people in the documentary, right? And especially again, I just go back to Paul's best friend, and Scandal. That would have been an amazing concert to go see. Little side note: Dolly Parton has played there. Um, so and he's like, I mean, he has all the reasons in the world to hate Paul, right? I mean, he essentially views it like he killed his girlfriend, Mallory Beach. But he's also very much like, you know what? I can tell you that this is how this and this went, or you know what? Paul didn't have anything to do with that housekeeper's death. That was basically his mother, more so than Maggie. Apparently, from what I'm learning. Thanks, Old Soul. Okay, hold on. Oh, excellent question, Old Soul. Okay, let's talk about this while we're waiting. Okay. Thank you for the super chat show. When I saw that, I was like 100% that's what makes sense. Okay, so in the documentary, I think on the third one, there's a journalist on there who's basically saying that her theory is that what she thinks is that he wasn't setting this up to be like oh, I want to take my life. He was going to make it like Eddie was trying to take him out, and he killed Eddie and then pin it on Eddie. And the way she described it, it all clicked into place. It all made sense to me, and I was like, yes, this is the kind of thing. Now, again, this is alleged. I don't know if that's the fact. And again, she doesn't know either. These are all just theories and that kind of stuff at this point. But something, again, with all these stories that come out, something never feels right about
Mr. Waters. So
here we go. This is where he's going to say, okay, we've had a change of plea. Yeah, Adam, 100%. If he really wanted to, he would have done that. And Eddie's saying he called me to come help him, and this whole thing went down. And that sounds like Alec more than the other thing. Yes, CO, it makes total sense, right? I mean, he was trying to pull some next level stuff. He could have then said he was being blackmailed, numerous things, because the checks he was cutting, he was still cutting that guy checks after the murders. Jason, excellent question. I have no idea. Does anybody know? I'm going to put it up on the screen so everybody can see it. Where'd you go? Hold on now. I don't know this, but honestly, that would have been some bombshell testimony, right? Yeah, I have a vibe that Eddie knows, because Eddie knows some dark stuff about Alex, right? So he's gonna know a lot of stuff. Alex said, "Now listen, Poot." Now in a bit, I might have to switch to the other chair, y'all, because my butt's already sore.
the jury. All right, you may bring the jury.
Bring the jury. That's gonna be while they're just starting the jury thing. Okay, yeah, I gotta go help Matt with something real quick. I'll be right back.
Jury is present, sir. All right, thank you. Let's wait till everyone gets settled. All right, welcome again, once again. Day number 27. And you have heard all of the testimony, received all of the evidence. You've visited the scene of the alleged crimes, and now it's time for closing arguments. First, by the state, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Good morning. It's been a long trial, hasn't it? On June 7th, 2021, at the Moselle property in Colleton County, Maggie Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh were brutally and maliciously murdered at the kennels by Alec Murdaugh. Paul, as you know, suffered 2 shotgun blasts. Maggie suffered 5 blackout rifle wounds. And after an exhaustive investigation, there is only one person who had the motive, who had the means, who had the opportunity to commit these crimes, and also whose guilty conduct after these crimes betrays him. The defendant was the one person who was living a lie. The defendant is the person on which a storm was descending, and the defendant is a person where his own storm would actually mean consequences for Maggie and Paul, and consequences for those who trusted him. And that person is the defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh. I know this has been a long trial because it's a complicated case. And I'm not going to talk forever, I promise. But I am going to try to distill this down for you. And the first thing I want to do is set the stage. And to set the stage, we have to understand a little bit about Alec Murdaugh and who he was and who he is. He was a person of singular prominence and respect in this community. But he's also a person who's been able to avoid accountability for all of his life. While he was outwardly giving the illusion of wealth and a very lucrative law practice, some bad land deals and that sort of thing, exacerbated by the economic recession, led to some financial problems. And then he had some big cases in the early 2011, 2012. And all his partners, and you've heard testimony to this, thought that had taken care of things.
Thank you, Jason.
You've heard cases like the Thomas case and the Pinckney case and the Plower case and the Badger case. But the evidence that you've heard shows that the defendant became so addicted and so dependent on a velocity of money that the millions of dollars in legal fees that he was receiving was not enough. And so he started to steal. And how did he steal? He stole by billing personal expenses to the firm. He stole by stealing from his own family. You heard the testimony about the check he stole from his brother Randy. But then the main ways were 2 schemes that he developed. And the first one was to get checks made out from the client trust account to Palmetto State Bank, to fast talk the staff and fast talk the clients with those disbursements, and then take it to Palmetto State Bank, where his buddy Russell Lafitte would convert those and use those to pay personal expenses. And each time until the end, it worked because the client was also getting a big check. And they were walking out of there thinking that everything had been fine when it was not. But then in 2015, he opened up the fake Forge account. And then all he had to do was get disbursements paid out to the Forge account. And once he did that, he would convert those to his personal use. And to do that, though, he also had to fast talk staff and fast talk clients. And that scheme continued up until everything fell apart in the end. The other thing you have to understand is during this time when he's earning millions of dollars and stealing millions of dollars, he's also borrowing millions of dollars from wherever he can. The bank, his law partners, his father, and it still wasn't enough. And this slow burn was continuing and continuing until the boat crash happened in February of 2019. And that changed everything. That set in motion things that were going to happen because of the criminal charges related to that case, as well as the civil charges related to that case. And in the aftermath of the boat case, things changed. The pace of his stealing increased. In fact, that's when he stole the money from Tony Satterfield that you heard from. Ultimately stole about $4.5 million between the Satterfields and others. And unlike other cases, Tony Satterfield, who was the son of his longtime housekeeper, he took all the money, took every bit of it. And that was coming to a head as we move into the spring of 2021, because there had been some publicity, and you heard from Tony Satterfield that he was, the defendant reached out in the spring of 2021 because there had been publicity and saying, hey, I'm still working on the case. Everything's fine. I'm still working on the case. It's good. But the reality is the defendant didn't have that money to pay it back. And he had one saving grace, because as you've heard, they don't get paid until the end of the year. And his saving grace was the Ferris case, which they tried in December. They get the verdict and get paid in March. And that's when he convinces Chris Wilson to send those $792,000 of fees to him. But the problem is that only lasted for about 2 months. $792,000 only lasted for about 2 months.
That's insane.
And then he's running out of money again. Meanwhile, you've heard in the boat case that Mark Tinsley was seeking to get a large personal recovery from Alec Murdaugh of $10 million because he thought, as many people did, that he was wealthy and had a lot of money. And when they said he didn't, he filed a motion to compel. And you've heard testimony about whether or not that had been granted, but it doesn't change the fact that that's what Mark Tinsley was seeking to do. And that boat case hearing had been scheduled for June 10th. In May of 2021, as we move into June, that's when Alec's own paralegal,
thanks, Miriam,
got the expense check for the Ferris case, but not the fee check, and tried to raise that to Alec and couldn't get a straight answer, tried to raise it to Chris Wilson and couldn't get a straight answer, to his office. And so goes to Jeannie Seconder, and Jeannie Seconder goes to the partners, and they can't get an answer about that either. And they want an answer to that because they're worried, because Alec has been talking about structuring fees, and they're worried he may be trying to hide assets because of the boat case, and they don't want to be a part of that. All of these things are coming to a head, and his finances are falling apart. And you heard from the banker there. You heard where his finances were at on June 7th, 2021. And you saw what happened in the wake of that. Within a short period of time, he was negative $347,000.
I mean, this is crazy.
On June 7th, 2021, he was in the office. He was working on the boat case, working on those financial disclosures, when Jeannie Seconder came in and confronted him about those fees that he no longer had and couldn't pay back.
Look at Alex. Look at Alex. He's like, that ain't true, son.
On June 7th, 2021, and he tells this to Jeannie Seconder, his father, Randolph, is having a very difficult time. And while they might have said it was some positive news, the reality is that he was very, very sick. And he had always been someone that the defendant could go to, that he could borrow money from. And so that pressure is happening as well. And on June 7th, 2021, as all these pressures were mounting, the defendant killed Maggie and Paul. And how do we know that?
Yes.
We're going to talk in detail about that. But the timeline puts him there. The forensic timeline puts him there. The use of his family weapons corroborates that. And his lies and guilty actions afterwards confirms it. And we'll go over each of those in great detail. Before we get to that, though, I want to finish out, because in the wake of this, everything changes. All those things that were coming to a head immediately go away. It's a different world now. They're not asking about the Ferris fees anymore. And you heard testimony to that. Mark Tinsley doesn't believe the case is going to have the same value anymore because the sympathies of the case have changed after this tragedy. And you heard that. And who would better understand that than Alec Murdaugh, who does the same work? The boat case hearing goes away. And everyone immediately rallies around Alec Murdaugh. And it worked. Because it allowed him to borrow $250,000 from Johnny Parker, his law partner, who of course wouldn't have loaned him that money if he knew what Alec was up to, and allowed him to go to Palmetto State Bank and get $350,000 and an off-the-books loan that hadn't even been applied for, and to send that money to Chris Wilson and convince Chris Wilson to pay another $192,000 of his own money, and to send an email to the firm that everything was okay.
Wow.
And that made it another month or so until Annette Griswold found that Ferris check in his office, and Jeannie Seconder looked up the forged accounts. And what happened in the wake of that? What was the reaction of Alec Murdaugh? Within a day of September 3rd of him being forced to resign, his buddy Chris Wilson is trying to see him, comes and sees him on September 4th and confronts him about what he's been doing. And then within 2 hours, the side of the road happens. And Alec is a victim again.
There's a
when
pattern.
Accountability was at his door, he was a victim again. And he told a extremely detailed lie and went so far as to draw a composite sketch with the police of this assailant.
Please tell me it doesn't look exactly like Eddie.
And the accountability that had arrived at his doorstep again, he tried again, tried to get it to go away, and it worked for a little while. People thought, oh my gosh, what's happened here? Should we be suspicious of Alec anymore? But this time it fell apart a little quicker because his own brother figured out that he was trying to buy drugs, and the case fell apart very quickly. This is the setup for what we look at and what's going on. And it seems like a story that's far removed from most people's experience, because it is. It is a different story like has never been seen before. But the reason is that he is a different man.
Hey, Veronica.
Than the kind of stories that we've seen before. This is a different set of circumstances than we've seen before. And it's certainly easy to understand when you have a middle-aged man who's outwardly successful, who has a strong family legacy, who has a prominence in the community and a reputation, but is living a lie. Is living a lie. And that leads to and can lead to those pressures being overwhelming.
Thanks, Norma.
and actions like this happening.
Yeah, always a coffer in the crowd.
Husbands have been killing wives, unfortunately, for years, and husbands killing sons goes back as far as King Herod, probably further. When those pressures mount and someone becomes
Thanks, Martha.
A family annihilator.
See, he's over there like, Sean. He liked being referenced to King George or whoever he just said, though.
Now the computer input, please.
So far, I think they're laying it out very nicely, showing the motive, this kind of stuff. They're going to have to really walk us through the timeline and the
all right,
and piece it all together.
We got to do a little law school. I'm certainly not a professor, but we need to go through a few of the concepts here. And one of the most important concepts is the fundamental role, one of the fundamental roles while y'all are here. As the judge has told you, he's the judge of the law, but y'all are the judge of the facts. And what does judge of the facts mean? Well, a big part of that is that you determine credibility. You determine which witnesses you want to rely on or not rely on. You can rely on a part of a witness's testimony, all the witnesses' testimony, one against many, many against one. It's up to each one of you individually to make that determinations and decisions, and then to collectively discuss those into a group decision. But credibility is important. Is it believable? Is what somebody's telling you believable? And there's many things you can consider in credibility, but a few of those are the demeanor of the witness on the witness stand, whether the witness has a reason to be biased, whether the testimony of the witness was contradicted on one hand or supported or corroborated on another, whether the witness has been dishonest in the past.
He's getting scientific.
And again, you can believe witnesses all against one against others, and you can believe portions of a witness's testimony as you see fit. Same thing goes for experts. Expert is a legal determination that allows them to give an opinion. Just because someone's qualified as an expert doesn't mean that you have to accept their opinion. You can judge that based on your assessment of the credibility and the relevance and the believability of that testimony. There's nothing different about that when someone's an expert. Beyond a reasonable doubt, I talked about this at the beginning of the case, and it's our burden. It's a burden we welcome. It's how this system works, that we have to prove the guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And what is a reasonable doubt? A reasonable doubt is a doubt that makes a reasonable, honest, sincere juror hesitate to act. It's proof that a reasonable person would not hesitate to rely on in their affairs. But a reasonable doubt is not and leaves you firmly convinced of the guilt of the defendant, but it doesn't have to overcome every possible doubt. It doesn't have to overcome every possible doubt. I used to try a case against a defense attorney, and he would pull up a picture of something. Right here, I have the Mona Lisa.
Thank you, Nitty.
Me. Tear off a piece like that and say, ladies and gentlemen, that's reasonable doubt. And my response to that is, you still know what this is, right?
Woo!
You still know what it is. And that's reasonable doubt, okay? If you still know what it is and you're firmly convinced, then it's your duty under the oath that you've taken as the judge will give you the law to convict the defendant. Direct and circumstantial. Directly proves the existence of the fact, and circumstantial evidence is proof of a chain of facts and circumstances indicating the existence of that fact. And we talked a little bit about that at the beginning. Sometimes people in common discussions will say, oh, the case is just circumstantial. But the law says that doesn't matter. The circumstantial evidence can be just as good as direct evidence. It is just as good. It makes no distinction between that, and the judge will charge you on that. There's no greater degree of certainty required of circumstantial evidence than of direct evidence. The circumstances must be consistent with each other and when taken together point conclusively to the guilt of the defendant. And I gave you all an illustration at the beginning. I'm not going to redo the whole thing, but about being inside. And you go outside and it starts raining, then you know it's raining, okay, because you got direct evidence, you're getting wet. But if you go inside and you're in a closed room and all of a sudden it gets dark and you hear thunder and you hear the wind rustling and you hear the rain coming down on top of the roof, and then after an hour or so you go outside and the sun's shining, but there's limbs all down in the yard and it's wet as far as the eye can see, and there are puddles in the yard and puddles in the driveway. Is there any reasonable doubt what happened, that it rained? Now, again, I'll say it again. Supposedly, I guess somebody could have sprayed the whole neighborhood with a hose and blown a fan to blow the wind down, or blow the limbs down, simulate wind, but that's not a reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen. Circumstantial evidence can be just as strong as direct evidence. It is just as strong. The law makes no distinction just because it's circumstantial. All right, let's talk about murder. Murder is the willful killing of someone with malice aforethought. It's the unlawful and willful killing of any person by one with malice aforethought. The crime of murder is really, as far as the elements go,
Veronica,
fairly simple. The operative terms here, the most important terms, are malice, which is the mental state that the person must have, and aforethought. But let's talk about those. What exactly do they mean? Malice, and it could be any of these. It can be the hatred, ill will, or hostility towards another, but it also can be the intentional doing of a wrongful act with an intent to inflict an injury under the circumstances that the law would infer an evil intent. It could be a general malignant recklessness of the lives and safety of others. It could be a wicked or depraved spirit intent on doing wrong. It could be using firearms, shotgun in a blackout to blow somebody away. That can be malice, ladies and gentlemen, if that's what you decide.
Ooh, he laid it on.
A forethought. Sounds like it has to be planned, and certainly planning would account for a forethought, but it may be conceived at the very moment, a split second, or in conjunction with the act. So a forethought doesn't require planning for that malice to occur. All it has to do is exist in the moment, just a split second, or in the moment that the act occurs. So when that trigger is pulled, as long as there's that intentional doing of a wrongful act, intent to inflict an injury, that would be an evil intent, a malignant recklessness, which you can infer from the circumstances of the case, then that's all you need. And how do you do that? I said infer, because people don't always yell out what their intentions are. You have to infer it from the circumstances of the case itself. Look at the crime scene, look at what happened, look at the backstory, look at all the circumstances that come together, and you can infer malice from those.
What if he was using this coffee cup to be drink?
Last little bit of law school.
We need to send him.
Malice and drugs. Voluntary intoxication does not impair a person's ability to act with malice aforethought. That's a legal principle. If you voluntarily get intoxicated, it is not a defense to a crime, and it does not negate the malicious nature of that crime. If one voluntarily intoxicates themselves, they are just as responsible for their actions as when they are not intoxicated. And the judge, again, take what the law comes from the judge, but this is a legal principle that you will hear. Voluntary intoxication is not a defense to a crime. Now, why does the law say that? Well, you can't take whatever it is and deny responsibility for what you've done under the law. All right?
He's got this look on his face like, man, this Bo's crazy.
I'm going to move through this quickly because we've already talked about it.
Please don't be hogs.
And just for scheduling, I'm going to have to stop my argument so that we can all eat. I'll give y'all a chance to get away from this for a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and go through some of this that we just talked about, but very quickly. Gathering storm in Alex's life. We talked about the family legacy. You heard of how important that was to him and how important that was to this family and how it was in danger because of the boat case. The criminal charges as well as the civil charges. That legacy was in danger. And it was threatening also to expose him for who he really was, which would totally destroy his part of that legacy. Lose his career, lose his bar license, face consequences like he's never seen.
Well, he's
also a successful lawyer and a part-time prosecutor. And as we go through and talk about the circumstances of this case and talk about the crime scene and the timeline and all the rest of it, think of it with that in mind. That this is an individual who is trained to understand how to put together cases, complex cases. He's been a prosecutor. He's done complex car wrecks. He understands the law. He's given closing arguments to juries before. So when you have a defendant like that, be thinking about whether or not this individual is constructing defenses and constructing alibis. Talked about his law practice. You've heard how lucrative it is. I had to struggle with him to get him to admit that he was wealthy, making more than $1 million a year. I'll let y'all decide whether or not that's wealthy, but he admitted ultimately that, that was not uncommon for him to make that much money on top of stealing and borrowing on top of that. The important thing, though, to remember again, and I want to highlight this, is that they get, under the way that firm works, they get their money at the end of the year. And then it's up to them to make it last. And that's the big problem that he had. That's why he had to get the Ferris fees. He can't, if he's out of money in May, he's not going to, unless he can borrow it or steal it, he's out of luck.
So I didn't know that till
now. And the
now.
hounds were at the gate.
He was getting paid in December.
All right. We talked about this. He's got, you heard, I think, Jeannie described him as having intentional chaos. We had the land deals. He's servicing this huge debt load. He constantly needs new money coming in. And this has been going on for more than a decade, a constant hamster wheel. The stress and the pressure of that would be extreme because it's been going on for so long, always having to stay one step ahead of the game, always having to beg, literally beg, borrow, or steal for over a decade to have the truth from being exposed. That's been going on all that time. The big cases, his partners think he's straightened it out and paid off his debts, but he hadn't. He's getting paid millions of dollars, but he's stealing on top of that. It's not enough to keep that hamster wheel going. So he borrows and he steals. The methods I mentioned, you got the PSB checks, you got the fake forge, you got fake business expenses, running the firm card, and from his family and his law partners. Each one of these depends on him being able to sit down and look someone in the eye and convince them that what they're doing is right, when in reality that wasn't happening.
Wow.
And all those clients trusted him based on those. And we sat there and went through that, and it may have been exhausting, and I apologize for that, but he couldn't tell you about one conversation that he had that stuck with him. That's how easily it came to him.
Second nature.
Is that relevant to your consideration of what he had to say to you? That's for y'all to decide. Couldn't name one conversation Just had that same answer that he had rehearsed. And didn't want to talk about any of those individuals who trusted him, as he looked you in the eye and asked you to do the same.
Mm-hmm. Tying it all back in.
Down to the bottom. It's not just the clients, too. It's his staff. They're doing the paperwork. They're filling all that out. He had to fast talk them as well. Alex's situation, I think, is akin to a Ponzi. And a Ponzi's kind of like a pyramid scheme where it depends on new money coming in to pay old investors. And it works. It'll work for a long time as long as you can keep that money coming in. But the second you can't, the second that you're out of options, it crashes and burns. That's how every Ponzi crashes and burns. And that's the situation fundamentally his finances were like. And that's the situation that was arriving in June of 2021 when he was at the scene with the victims minutes before they died and lied to everyone who would listen about it. A gathering storm. The boat case, other factors that were arising, each one leading to that inevitable day of reckoning. You had the trial lawyers conference where he was confronted. Mark Tinsley was confronted by Alec. Alec, of course, denied it. Everybody's lying on Alec. Alec's telling you the truth, even though everyone who knew him had no idea who he was. Everyone. No one knew who he really was. The people who came in here and said, we thought this about him, not a single person knew who he really was. That's how convincing he is. But he denies this confrontation. When Mark Tinsley was like, he bows up on Mark Tinsley. He's like, what you doing, man, about the boat case? And Mark says, you're going to have to pay money to the Beach family. Millions of dollars. Alec doesn't have that. He's barely one step ahead of the game at this point. He doesn't have insurance coverage anymore, or at least not a big umbrella policy. And why? Because his insurance company dropped him after the Satterfield case. Insurance company thinks the money went to the Satterfield boys, but it didn't. They don't know that he's stolen it all, but they don't want to insure him anymore. So he doesn't have that to help him pay the Beach case. And so what's the one hope he has? And that's the Ferris case. And it's tried, and you get a verdict in February of 2021, $792,000. And eventually, he tells Chris Wilson, I'm going to structure those, which is a lie, and gets the fees sent to him in March. And is spent in 2 months. But the boat case isn't going away. Mark says, show us your books if you're telling me you're broke. I think his testimony was, they said that he could probably cobble together $1 million, which I guess that's broke for him, but it wasn't enough. And so they refuse, and that's what leads to the motion to compel. And there's been a lot of argument about, is that going to be granted or not? Will the judge have granted it? What we do know is that Mark Tinsley said that's what he was seeking to do, and he was seeking to do it because he had been told by the defense that he didn't have money. So he's like, prove it. None of us believe that, knowing what we know about you in this community. Prove it. Well, Alec can't have anybody spinning his financial records.
Nope.
Because it's all going to be apparent. That forged account is going to open right up. He can't have that happen. It will all end. He'll lose his career. He will lose his livelihood. He will face investigations and consequences like he's been able to avoid his entire life. But if he can just stay one step ahead, just 1 month longer, 1 day longer, then he's never going to have to face that accountability that he has to face. The hearing is scheduled for June 10th, 2021. And no one's here to argue to you that his definitely going to be granted. All we're arguing to you is what the witnesses said they were intending to do. And as you've seen in court over the past 6 weeks, things happen and a process starts. And once that process starts, there's a conclusion to it. There's a conclusion to that. And then you heard from Tony Satterfield, who got up on the stand and talked about the fact that there was some coverage about this case as we move into the spring of 2021. And he hears from Alec, and Alec lies to him and says, yeah, we're hoping to get this case moving. And you saw the text message to that effect when the reality was that it had already been stolen. How's he going to pay that, ladies and gentlemen? That's millions of dollars. It's millions of dollars. And eventually, they're going to figure out that this money's already been paid.
I mean, his world was crashing.
The insurance company thinks it's gone in the right place. At some point, the question is going to get asked, and that alone is going to break everything apart. Ferris case, this is when his paralegal finds the expense check and not the fee check. And I've already told you this part of the story, and y'all have heard the testimony, but it sets off that inquiry from the second juror. So now we have this on top of everything else that we're mentioning. This is like nothing he's ever experienced. He's always been able to stay one step ahead of the game. But after the boat case, his appetite's increased greatly. He started stealing millions of dollars, and now he's running out of options, and all these factors are converging. All they're converging. And they're converging on 1 week, 1 day. And that arrives. His father's in the hospital. There's a confrontation with Jeannie. Alec tells her, manages to ward off the conversation by saying Mr. Randolph is terminal. He, of course, denies that, so I guess Jeannie's lying on him too. But that's what she says happened. He's working on the boat case. And then the tragedy happens. And it worked. It's not the only reason, but it's part of the reason. The pressures on this man were unbearable, and they were all reaching a crescendo the day his wife and son were murdered by him. All on that day. And in the wake of this, everything changes. People stop asking about these things. The community has changed like you would expect. People are concerned. They're scared. They're worried. And everything's changed. The backlash from the boat case has gone away, and all of that has changed. And that's why Mark Tinsley thought his case was over. This may seem like, really? But who would understand that better than him? This is exactly the kind of work he did. His skills as a lawyer were understanding the emotional value of a case, understanding the sympathies of a case. If you have a sympathetic plaintiff and an unsympathetic defendant, that is, in the civil world, that's a big case. But if those get reversed, if those change, if all of a sudden your defendant is more sympathetic,
thank you, Veronica.
It changes it. It changes the entirety of what Mark Tinsley's position on this case was for the Beach family, that Alec was going to have to pay money. And that's what he told you from the stand. He said if Alec had been the victim of some unsuspect or some random vigilante, the entirety of the case has changed. And I'm not taking the same position. I'm not trying to demand that level of recovery. He gets the $750. Well, he gets $600 of it. Ultimately gets a $750 loan. He convinces Chris Wilson. That heads off to Ferris. That's pretty much the main thing he did after this, was to make sure he could get that money, enough of it to Chris Wilson so that he would send an email to the law firm saying, hey, everything's cool. I got it. It's all good. And that's what the law firm thought. It's the main thing he did. In the wake of the murders of his wife and son was he made sure to stay, again, one step ahead of the game because he had more time now. He had time he didn't have on June 7th, but he had it now. And that's the first thing he did. It's the first thing he did. It's the main thing he did. Was keep the hamster wheel going. I know it seems like a lot, but you have to consider the unique circumstances of this particular man. This particular man who has proven over and over again that he will do anything to keep that hamster wheel going and to avoid accountability. And he's been doing it for over 10 years. He just finally reached a point that he had never reached before. Of course, the hearing on the motion to compel gets canceled. Who would go forward with that in the wake of what's happened? That goes away. Doesn't, I think you heard from the testimony up there, it doesn't get rescheduled till long after everything crashes and burns in September. It doesn't even get rescheduled in the wake of this. You don't have to worry about that either. And the potential that had for exposing who he was. Because the second somebody looks at his accounts, the second his own partner, Danny Henderson, looks at his accounts as in representing him and says, well, let me see him. He can't do that. He can't do that. He can't even show him to his own partner. Because what's going to happen? They're going to see it too. He can't let that happen. Or everything falls apart. And he loses everything, including that legacy that you heard from individuals up there is so important to him. More important than anything. I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is the timeline. And you can see and I'll let y'all look at that, but you can see how this develops, how this hamster wheel continues, how he always has to be one step ahead of the game. You know, we've talked about the Redbeard and the Zero United. Those are the land deals that went bad. They get charged off, but you have Palmetto State Bank, still dealing with him. He then appoints Russell Lafitte a conservator and borrows up to $1 million from the Plower Girls accounts without their knowledge. And then he has to steal money from the Badger case, where he's already making a huge amount of legal fees. He has to steal money from the Badger case to pay off the Plower Girls before they turn 18, and then there's an accounting for that. And then he opens up the Forge account.
I mean, this is crazy.
And it continues. $338,000 from Deion Martin. Johnny Bush, Manuel Sanderson, Richard, $225,000. He's maxing out $1 million line of credit. The only way to stay afloat is to beg, borrow, and steal. He's maxing out $1 million line of credit. He steals some more money, but he's right back to where he was. March of 2018, he's now maxed out not only $1 million line of credit, but also a $600,000 line of credit. A line of credit, almost like a credit card, maxed out. Then the boat crash happens, and look what happens to the figures. $3.7 million, $1.1 million, $1 million. And then you have the double homicide.
I mean, for me, this is motive. When you want to talk about motive to it?
This is some of the exhibits. This is, as you recall, there'll be the statements, and they're in evidence showing the defendant's
It's like an old-fashioned phone bill
assets on June 7th, 2021, and the reds are his liabilities. That one's green, but it's negative. And then over here, that's where he was a couple months later. He borrowed $750,000 and still ended up $347,000 in the hole, which part of that had to cover. I think it was called the most generous overdraft policy ever conceived. Because, I mean, in fairness, though, he did get a $5 overdraft charge. Right there, so. Anyway. All right, what else do we have? Because we talked about a lot of things about the finances, and I know that there's been a lot of that, but it's really the only way to understand all the things that were affecting this middle-aged, outwardly successful professional man who had all these pressures upon him, like no one had ever seen. Well, we've got the pills. He claims he's had a pill addiction for 20 years. What does he say about that? He says it makes him paranoid. He says it makes him agitated. He says opiates give him energy. Use your common sense about that. But he also says, and he even said this in the telephone interview after the side of the road, that the withdrawals will make you do anything to get rid of them. That's common sense as well. We know how powerful opiates can be and how the addiction of opiates can be extremely powerful. The withdrawals, not being dope sick, can be extremely powerful. But he's also saying he's taking 1,000 milligrams a day. And he's trying to blame all his theft on that. But that's not what these records reflect. They reflect an insatiable desire for money and a hamster wheel that's been going on for a long time. And you don't really see the escalation from his drug dealer until March of 2021. I would ask you also, one of the tenets of juries is common sense. That's what you're here for, is for an individual and then a collective common sense. Common sense, 1,000 milligrams a day, does that sound survivable? He sat there on that stand and told you that's what he was taking. And as we're going to go through this process, we're going to talk about what he said on the stand and how many times on the fly that he looked you in your eyes and didn't tell you the truth. He's very good at it. His own partner said that. He's very, very good at it. Now, leave it to you to decide whether 1,000 milligrams a day is survivable with opiates. And if it was, that you could still engage in work, have a successful practice, and then on top of that, engage in these complex conspiracies to steal and fool everyone and live a life and have people outwardly think that you're, who you profess to be in public. If you were taking 1,000 milligrams a day, does that make common sense? I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't. I have no doubt that he was taking
no problem,
opiate pills.
Kelsey. I was curious.
But I think he looked you, and I would submit to you to decide whether or not he looked you in the eye and claimed them out as inconsistent with whatever else we know about this man. It's really inconsistent with survivability as a matter of common sense. He can never function at the level he's been functioning, keeping up with these pressures, staying one step ahead for over a decade if he was taking that much dope. I would submit to you.
Look at Alex.
Just one other lie that I would submit to you as a lie that he's trying to get you to believe, to feel sympathetic for him, as if the dope was the cause of the money and the cause of his issues, when the reality is it wasn't. This had been going on for a long time, and the finances proved differently. But what else about this? You've seen the interviews. We're going to play some clips of these interviews, but I'm not going to play them all for you again. You've watched them. But if you have any questions, go back and watch them. He talks about being paranoid. Listen, watch those interviews when he's with Dave Owen. He doesn't look like he's withdrawing from any drugs. His responses are appropriate. He's not in displaying any paranoia. He's smooth. He's focused on the events. He's focused on trying to get information about the case from law enforcement officers, which is interesting in its own right. Why is he so focused on that? And in Savannah, where supposedly he was detoxing, he sat down, as you've heard the testimony, with a composite sketch artist and went through the whole process to come out with this picture. which I swear is not me. How do you do that? How do you do that if you're on that much dough? So why did he tell you that, ladies and gentlemen? Why did he look you in the eye and tell you that as he sat there on that stand trying to explain what was going on? It's interesting also that in one of the interviews with law enforcement, there were 3 interviews, June 8th, June 10th, and August 11th, before we get to the side of the road, that he mentions that Paul was a little detective. That's very interesting for him to mention that, because you heard from Marion Proctor, Maggie's sister, that Maggie called Paul that, the little detective, specifically in reference to Paul paying attention and trying to keep Alec from taking pills. Why would he bring that up? That's an interesting thing to bring up, because that was what that was in reference to. And what do we know? We know that in May, if we talk about all the pressures that are coming upon him, all these financial things that we've talked about, this exhausting hamster wheel that's been going on forever, the need to beg, borrow, and steal, stay one step ahead, and he's running out of options there. On top of that, we know in May that Paul sends a text to him saying, "Mom found some pills. We need to talk." Mom found some pills and we need to talk. Another pressure from Paul and Maggie on him. And if you look at the texts, the weekend of the ball game on June the 7th, and those are in evidence, Alec is not at the game. And he's texting back and forth, and Maggie's like, "Don't come if you feel bad." And he's like, "Well, I think I can get a late check out." And then he's like, "At 1 o'clock, they made me leave." I submit to you, it's a reasonable inference they were on him at this time. They were watching him like a hawk. Opiates, the most powerful of withdrawals, and everything's coming to a head, including this as well. Run out of money, running out of options, doesn't get paid in any significant way until December, already stole the Ferris fees and spent that money in 2 months, has an expensive pill habit, and accountability and consequences will undo everything in his life, everything that is his self-identity, everything. The only things that he cares about. He doesn't care about lying to his partners and his family and his friends and his clients if it will delay accountability for him. He'll do it in a heartbeat. And all of that is about to be undone.
We had a good stopping point.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take 1 hour and 15 minutes for lunch. Please do not discuss the case.
Okay, y'all. So this is getting good. This is getting interesting. Hold on, let me mute this. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do because this is good. So we're gonna take our lunch break. I'm gonna come back. I'll do a second, like I'm gonna end this live and then start another one for 2:15. So I'll go ahead and schedule it now. So go do what you got to do. Go use the bathroom, whatever you got to go, and then I'll be back then, and we'll keep watching the second part to it. I think so far the defense is, or I'm sorry, the state is piecing this together very nicely, and they're putting together some of the things of, okay, boom, 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 and this is how this went. So thank you everybody who joined. Thank you for super chats. Thank you for hanging out. I hope to see you here in a little bit, and we'll keep seeing what's going to happen. And that's it. Everyone have a good lunch. I'll be back. I'll schedule it for 2:15, and I'll go live a few minutes before to make sure everything, is working well. So I'll see y'all at 2:15. be here or be square. I'm going to go schedule it now. I'll see y'all soon. Bye. Have a nice lunch.